On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, I'm going to talk about the most important two questions you could ever ask. What's it worth, and how do you know? And believe me, as fee-based financial planners, you need to be able to answer these two questions for your clients.
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know. Learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com. Okay, everybody. So what's new with me? Well, I'm really excited about the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group that we've created. It's been, as far as I'm concerned, it's been an instant success. I mean, there's been a tremendous number of people who signed up for it. The conversations that are going in there, I've stimulated a few conversations just about some topics that were really on top of mind for me. And they've really, there's been a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, a lot of really great interaction between the group members. So I really appreciate everybody who's participating in that group. And if you aren't part of that group, then definitely I'll be putting some link to the show notes here that you can click on that. The only requirement for the group is very simple. You have to be a practicing financial planner or financial advisor. So at this point, my goal is to sort of keep out anybody who's not a practicing planner, because I really just want to get people who are who have insight, who are on the front lines. You know, this is the group where you want to come if you're going to find out answers from people who are on the front lines, who sort of get what it's like to be sitting eyeball to eyeball with clients and are, you know, going through all the challenges that you face in running your business in that perspective. So, you know, our goal is to only have people that are actual practicing financial planners in the group, and I think it's going to really create for some great conversations and a good resource. It's just a great resource. I think with social media these days and the different groups and ways of communicating with your colleagues, LinkedIn for professionals, fantastic. It really lends itself well. It's a private group, so anything you communicate in the group is only shared with group members. So that's great. And it really just is a place that you can go and gain some insights. As fee-based financial planners, I've always found that you're kind of living on an island by yourself, and there aren't that many people who you can talk to, simply because there's not that many people doing it the way we do it. And so, this is one of the benefits of the community and setting up a group like this, is that you can then start to get some insight into others who are there doing it. So if you haven't joined that group, definitely check it out. Just go into the show notes or just go to LinkedIn and look under the groups and search for Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, and you'll find it. So that's what's new, and it's really quite exciting. I look forward to it every morning. I on my Mondays and my 4 a.m. Mondays, I get up and I go there and I, sort of have my 4 a.m. thought, and sometimes I'll put a little question out there. But I'm also really interested to see and to read through what people have been communicating and what questions they have in the group there. So definitely check that out. Also want to give some shout outs. I've had some really interesting conversations with the group since the last episode, and I just want to give some shout outs to some of those people. And if I've missed you for any reason, I apologize, but I'd like to say thanks to all these people: Andreas B., Jared H., Shane S., Judy M., Jason O., and our newest listener, Rob H. So thanks everybody for all your communications and questions. And, it's really insightful, and I love it because it makes me reflect on my business in many cases as to what's working for me. And, there are oftentimes little niggly things that I'm just not aware are little niggly frustrations for other people. So, it's nice when I can get the questions sent out to me, and then it just allows me to either respond to those questions directly, which I like to do for everybody when they do send a question. But if it's a question that comes up time and time again, I'll probably have it discussed on an episode of the show. So anyways, thanks very much, everybody. That's really just a quick highlight of what's new with me. So now I think we should just get right into the episode because this one's a big one.
And now for our feature segment.
So what's it worth and how do you know? These seriously are the two most powerful questions you could ever ask anyone about anything, because if they can't answer these questions, you really shouldn't do whatever with them, business or anything like that. Let's take a look at some examples. Okay, let's start with the obvious one, your financial plan, or should I say your financial planning process. Let me ask you this. Are your clients paying you for your financial plan, or are they paying you for your financial planning process? I know my clients are paying me for the financial planning process, because when you compare the two, what do you think they'd pay if we looked at one? If we said, okay, let's compare against the financial plan versus the financial planning process, what do you think they'd pay for each? Well, if you look at what my financial plan consists of, let's see what it's worth. Well, there's a binder, there's paper, there's some calculations that go into it, some recommendations. So what's it worth? Well, really, if you just add it all up, it's only worth a few dollars because it's just articles that are put together. Now, let's look at what my financial planning process consists of. Well, there's an introductory session and discussion about, the prospective client's issues and concerns. We have a conversation about those issues and concerns. We then have a follow-up letter, which sort of helps get clarity and gives them clarity and provides them insight. The fact that we're listening to what they said and we've sort of heard what their concerns were. We have a second meeting to look further at the details and gain some further clarity on that. Really do a deep dive at that point into what their particulars. A very thorough discussion highlighting exactly what the client would like out of their life. We really get into wanting to know exactly what they're hoping to accomplish. We do a full analysis of their financial affairs, an organized, methodology and process to ensure nothing gets overlooked. And that's really what we've put together. There's recommendations based on the client's goals and their specific goals and objectives. So you see, clients aren't looking for a financial plan. Clients are looking for financial peace of mind. Clients are looking for financial confidence. And it's your job to create a process to provide them with this. But how has the industry approached this? And when you start looking at this, it's you start to realize that things are, a little backwards. Through the creation of products, that's how the industry has approached the whole financial side of things. They create products, not through the creation of process. And there's a big difference between the two. The problem is that it's easier to create a product than it is to create a process, because a successful process has to have just that, success. A product, however, has to have the potential for success, but a product always leaves the creator a way out if it doesn't work. So the creative minds at the investment firms found a way to make people believe that their product is their process. Just ask 10 people on the street if they think there's a difference between a financial plan and an investment plan. The majority of people will think that they are one in the same. The media also, they've fallen victim to this, and they still do. I mean, I see it all the time, that there are better or worse products. And this is what they talk about. They always, put articles together on products, and they say, oh, there's better products and worse products, and they will try to prove the point using metrics as opposed to success results. And they pass this off as advice. It's not advice. It's an opinion that's based on the assessment of product features, but never have I ever seen them discuss the benefits. I mean, this mutual fund or this ETF is better, because it has a lower MER and it has outperformed the index by X percent on a consistent basis, blah, 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 blah. My response to an article like this is, well, so? how does it really benefit anyone that you now have an article that says, well, here's a product that is cheaper, that has a higher historical performance, so the fee is lower. Does that mean that McDonald's is better than a Morton's Steakhouse because the cost is lower? Well, no. I mean, that's ridiculous. The ETF or mutual fund has outperformed the index. So how's that going to help me in the future? I mean, that's all historical data. It really doesn't mean jack about the future. So it's very frustrating to see how the media approaches this, because what they're not doing is they're not looking at the process. They're not looking at successful processes. They're just simply looking at the products. My point is that the most important thing is to ask, well, what's it worth? And how do you know? I bet the process that Morton's uses to prepare their meat for consumption is a little different than McDonald's. I bet the process that Morton's takes, the process that they take you through to provide you with an elite dining experience will make you happier and more fulfilled than what you get at McDonald's. Are you willing to pay for that process? You bet you are. And if that's what you want, then that's what you get. But as I say, I've said this in the past, it's not for everybody. A Morton's Steakhouse is not someplace you're going to go every single night, but you know what you're going to get when you go, and you will tend to go and you'll pay for that. And so, people aren't looking for the cheapest solution. People aren't looking for the historical best solution. And if they are, they're looking in the wrong place. So the process is everything. It really is everything. This is why you need to hone your process and promote your process instead of your plan. When a client asks you a question, answer it by explaining how your process will lead you to the answer. Okay? I mean, this is an important point, and I really want to spend a moment on this to make sure everybody truly understands that, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've had a lot of questions over the past little while with people saying, I don't think people are willing to pay the fee for my financial plan. And I'm thinking to myself, well, of course they're not, because they don't want a financial plan. They want a financial planning process. So approach it as the process. So what is your process? Can you articulate it? Can you show it? Can you put it into a picture so that those of us who are visual can see it? What words do you use to explain it for those of us who like to hear about things? Who is your process for? And more importantly, who is it not for? What does your process stand for? Or, more importantly, what does your process stand against? Here's an example. Our process is not for people who are just starting out. It simply provides more than those clients need, and those clients wouldn't find value in our process. Our process is for those who are wanting to increase their probability of success with their planning, and not for those who are just focusing on increasing their rate of return. You see the difference? So, really ask yourself, what is your process? Who is it for? Who is it not for? What does it stand against? These are ways you can sort of articulate and differentiate yourself. When people say, what do you do? Talk about your process. What's the name of your process? Does this articulate what it really does? Is the process bigger than you? You never ever want to put the name, like I'm a real proponent about naming your process and designing a process that sort of is an extension of your uniqueness and an extension of how it is you do what you do. But never, ever name the process the John Smith financial planning process. Who cares about this version? Who cares about the fact that John Smith, who's John Smith? I mean, really at the end of the day, it's got to be bigger than you. You need to, it doesn't describe exactly what it does when it says, well, it's the John Smith financial planning process. But how about the business owner's exit plan? How about the financial freedom day finder? How about the wealth protection experience? Those are better. Those are better explanations and better names for your process because they give more of an understanding about what it is that you do. The naming of your process is key. Write out in 2 or 3 paragraphs everything that it is you do for a client. Everything. Just brainstorm. Do a brain dump on a piece of paper or type it or whatever works for you and just start writing everything that you do. Start at the beginning. Like I always like to close my eyes and say, okay, when somebody comes into the office for the first time, what do we do? What do we say? What do we talk about? And just explain the whole process that you go through. go through that. Explain what happens between meetings. Explain what happens at the second meeting. Explain what happens all the way along. Explain what happens at the first plan presentation. Explain what happens, when you present the investments, when you present the financial plan, retirement calculations, when you present the estate plan, the insurance plan. When you talk about all those things, explain what you're doing. Explain why you're doing it. And you want to put all that down on, a foolscap piece of paper or on your computer and just type it out. Whenever you write down a feature, okay, so we sell investments would be a feature. We sell insurance. We write comprehensive financial plans. I want you to then pause and then always expand the sentence with the words "so that." Okay, so we write comprehensive plans for business owners so that, and then explain. Just carry on writing what it is. So every time you get to a feature, then as soon as you hit the feature, then write the word "so that," and it will just naturally lead you on to explaining why that's important and what the benefit is to the client. So, we reveal the expected future education costs for children's education so that, okay? So these are just some of the examples. We review the insurance portfolios of retirees so that, well, what is it you're doing it for? Why are you reviewing the insurance portfolio for retirees? Why are you writing a comprehensive plan for business owners? What is it that's unique about business owners? What is it that's unique about retirees and their insurance portfolios? Using the word "so that" as your transition will force you to expand on the benefits as opposed to the features. It's those benefits that your niche is wanting, not the features. They don't care. Here's an example. The car, and we use the car industry as a way of sort of explaining this. The car has a special worm gear in its steering column. Okay, great. That's a feature. That to me, I don't really care. But if you say, well, listen, this car has a special worm gear in the steering column so that you can feel like a Formula One driver on those on and off ramps. Okay. Wait a minute. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Or if you're talking about convertibles, the convertible top has a special plate in it that will appear after certain speeds. Okay, there's a nice feature, but why do I care? Okay, and that's the thing. And, the car industry drives me nuts. I love cars, but I hate them at the same time. So anyways, it probably has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of the guys that are selling these things just don't get this point. And if they did, I'm sure they'd sell a lot more cars. But to take that convertible top example, I would just say, listen, the convertible top has a special plate in it that will appear after certain speeds so that you and your passenger won't always have to wear a hat or ponytails to keep your hair in place while driving down the highway. Oh, okay. Now that's the benefit there. That's important to me. And it kind of removes that frustration that I've always seen. And I don't own a convertible and I don't think I ever will because of this point. But, the point is that, I've seen that that's a frustration. So I just, in putting this, mapping out this show, I decided, well, there's a good example. But it kind of explains what I'm talking about here. So build out your process to show everything that you do. Don't leave anything out. Really go through and just sort of walk yourself through the experience that a new prospective client has, that when they become a client, the whole planning process, the whole everything, but always use those transitions because it's just going to help you get clearer on why it is you're doing what you do. I believe that when you take a prospective client through your process and they see how much you actually cover and that you have a process to ensure that you do cover it all, that they will begin to see the value in what it is that you provide, okay? And this is becoming important now. You can start to see how now all of a sudden you're starting to build some value. How different is this experience from the traditional one in our industry? How different if you started going through and explaining to people the process, how it is you do what you do, why it is you do what you do, what the benefits are, not just the features, but what the benefits are, then you're going to start to have people really engaged in what it is you're doing because they're going to want those benefits. They're going to want the benefits. And so in order to get those benefits, they're going to have to take a look at those features. Well, this is a completely different model than what's out there today. Bring me here's the traditional approach. The traditional approach is, listen, bring me your investment statements and I'll pick them apart to show you how we can manage your assets better. Do you think that's, got a lot of oomph to it? You think that's got a lot of value to somebody else? To me, it's total BS. It's the same shit, different day. Nobody wants that. That's why why I say that if you say to people, listen, don't bring anything with you. you're actually differentiating yourself from 90% of the people out there, because most people are saying, bring it all with you. I need to take a look at it so I can pick it apart, because I'm going to try and convince you that I can do it better. Well, nobody wants that. So if you're struggling to make the transition to a fee-based approach, and this directly goes, this point here I'm making sort of directly goes to a lot of the questions we've been getting. If you're struggling to make the transition to a fee-based approach, you need to focus more on process as opposed to product. Then when you develop a document that really just sort of shows your process, magic happens. It's simply magic. What magic? Well, now you have something you can hone and refine. Okay, remember the what was it? The P90X. You know, this was the workout routine. It's actually quite crazy because everybody I've talked to that's ever done this P90X says it's the most difficult thing they've ever done. But I remember hearing a story about the creator of the P90X infomercial, which has been actually a hugely successful infomercial. Well, apparently they spent years split testing pretty much every 30 seconds of that infomercial. They wordsmithed every single word. They worked on the intro, the features, the benefits, the outro, the calls to action until they got it right. Then the magic happened and they sold millions and millions of dollars worth of this program. Now, why and how did they do that? Well, it's all because they mapped out their process. They mapped out everything about what it is that they do. So it's kind of what I've been doing for the past 20 years. You see, I know that my financial planning process works. I know that my process has the highest probability of success. But I also know that if I can't motivate the right people to go through the process, it's a wasted, valuable tool that society can't benefit from. So, you need to know that your process works, because none of this is appropriate if what you're doing doesn't work. And so you need to, first of all, create a valuable process. You need to go through and say, okay, does what I do, if somebody goes through the process that I'm taking them through, is it going to provide them with success? And if it's not, you gotta get a financial planning process. You gotta be able to become a financial planner that can get results and that is going to actually put something together that's worth something. So I analyze the experience my prospective clients go through so that when they get a chance to see what the process is all about, they're first of all qualified and second of all motivated. Then I walk them through a process to deliver the right information at the right time so that they're not overwhelmed. An overwhelmed prospective client is a paralyzed prospective client. An underwhelmed prospective client is a paralyzed prospective client. They either have too much or too little information. Either way, they can't make a decision. My process delivers the information to them at the right time to help them to make an educated decision. And this is what you need to do. The process starts, however, well before your first interview with a prospective client. Education-based direct response marketing is the key to your being able to meet with the right people at the right time. So putting all this together and creating the process and mapping it out the way I do, it's not so that you can engineer a slick way of getting people to pay you. It's not about that at all. It's about the fact that we have so much information and we do so much as financial planners that it's hard for people to really get a good understanding about what it is that we do. And if we do a dump on them and say, look, here's everything I can do for you, it's overwhelm. They just get paralyzed. And if we don't tell them enough, well, then they're not going to do anything because they're like, well, wait a minute, I don't have enough information, so I need more. So it is important to map out your process so that you can actually help people understand what it is that you do. Because a lot of what we do, remember, you can't see it. And it's really an experience that people are paying for. It's really an experience people are buying into. In the Academy, we've been spending a lot of time working on everything that's required for the successful delivery of what your fee is for your financial planning services. And I'll tell you that the answer lies not in what you say at the meeting where you actually present your fee. The answer lies in what you've said in every encounter you've had with a prospective client from the day they first found out about you. Whether that be from a referral, from your website, from your free content, from your lead nurturing emails, everything you say along the way has to be in alignment with your overriding message. And I tell you, when they get it, they all say the same thing. And these are the students I'm talking about, not the clients, but all the students in the Academy. When they get this whole process, they all say the same thing. When it came time to deliver the fee to the prospective client, The client had no reservation in paying the fee, and the planner felt that they were now not charging enough for the value that the client was going to be receiving. This is a good problem to have. I always say the same thing to everyone in the academy. Learn my process first, then make it your own. It's natural to, want to make your process unique. I get that. And I actually encourage that because you need to do that. Everything about your process has to be an extension of you, but not until you've sort of created a foundation you can build on. The foundation will do two things for you. First, it will provide you with an immediate revenue stream that will build your confidence. Okay, so you want to have some immediate successes. So you want to, if you get out there and, it's kind of like if somebody went out but if we go back and look at the car industry, if somebody went out and said, okay, well, I bought this car and, I had an accident, they're not going to go back to unless it's obviously the car's fault, but they're not going to go back to the dealership and say, hey, your car doesn't work. Okay. But suddenly when people find a process that they hear about or something, or some how-to information, which is really what the Academy is all about, and they take it and then they just start doing it their own way, and they take little bits and pieces and they sort of miss step 1 and go right to step 3, and they kind of rush things along and it doesn't work. And then say, well, this stuff doesn't work. Well, of course it doesn't work, because you're not following the baseline. You're not following the foundation that has been created, because it's not just getting to that ultimate end. You've got to do things along the way. So first, what it does is following the process gives you that initial success where you can get those quick initial successes saying, okay, I followed the process and guess what? It worked. Now you've got some revenue that you're going to be receiving. So that's going to help you with your business, because obviously one of the big challenges with our industry is in transitioning to a fee-based model is people are afraid that, okay, well, if I transition to a fee-based model, at least on the commission model, when I sell a product, when I sell a fund or something like that, all the revenue they get is up front. They get the commission up front. So now all of a sudden they've got cash they can work with. Well, in a fee-based model, guess what? You don't have the luxury of having that big hit up front. Now, you'll get your revenue along the way, but it could take 3 months before you get even a portion of the revenue that you're supposed to be receiving for that year. So you've got to be able to find a solution that's going to bridge that gap. Well, that's where the fee-based solution, where you compartmentalize your financial planning services to your implementation services. And what that's going to do is it's going to bridge that gap and give you some cash flow that will allow you to continue your business. There's if you ever read the book by Mark Benioff, who's the creator of Salesforce.com, he almost bankrupted his company at the beginning because of this exact thing. What he ended up doing was he was offering, getting salespeople out there, and these salespeople were going out and selling the services, and he was offering them a commission based on the sales that they made. Well, the problem was that the revenue that was coming in on a month-to-month basis. So he would offer the sales guy a commission on the revenue, but it was based on the annual revenue that they were going to be receiving from that contract. And so suddenly if you had let's say you had a $50,000, maybe a $5,000 revenue that's going to be coming in from a contract from just a small business, then that salesperson was going to then receive a percentage of that. Okay, so maybe they receive 50% of that, so that's their commission for that business. Okay, well, guess what? On day one, when they have to pay out that $2,500 or whatever the commission is, I'm just making the numbers up as we go here, but if they have to pay out that $2,500 to that salesperson, how much revenue did they have to pay that out with? Well, they didn't have anything, because they hadn't received their first, basically, I think maybe they probably at that point only received their first month's service fee. So now if their first month's service fee is, for say $400 or $500, then they haven't got enough money to pay that salesperson the commission. So the more sales they took on, the deeper and deeper into the hole they went. And they really ran into a problem where they just had to get some serious financing to bridge that gap, because when things took off, it almost put them into bankruptcy. And the same thing can happen to you in a fee-based financial planning firm, because if you then get a big pop and you get a lot of clients coming in, you may not have enough revenue to support all of that, because you just simply don't have the revenue, because it's going to come in the future. Well, what the solution was they started offering, in the Salesforce example, they started offering a discount for paying it all up front, paying the annual fee up front. And so they simply now had the money up front in order to pay the commissions and the all the stuff that went along with that. Well, same sort of idea with the fee-based financial planning. I just simply compartmentalized things and said, okay, for all the financial planning advice, you're going to pay that fee and you're going to pay it up front. And then on the implementation, sure, we'll implement things, and then there'll be some revenue that we'll be receiving on that. But basically, it bridged that gap and solved that problem, that if you had a lot of a lot of new clients coming in, you weren't going to be putting yourself into bankruptcy. Because when you transition, if you transition your business or you start from scratch and you then really, implement a lot of the tools and you get a lot of clients coming in, initially, you could seriously put yourself into bankruptcy because you don't have enough cash flow to support the infrastructure that you've created, because all the cash flow is going to come in the future. So that's an important point when it comes to that. And so the solution to that was simply compartmentalize and dividing the financial planning services from the other. And that allows you to then, be a smart business owner and receive the revenue for the services you're providing when you're providing them. So, that's an important part. So, it's going to provide you with that initial revenue stream, that initial confidence when you follow the process. But second, it's going to provide you with a baseline for making the process your own. And this one I'm going to talk a little bit about, because this is important. Because one of the things I don't want is, I don't think it makes sense for everybody to sort of embrace the same methodology, because what's going to happen is that everybody's going to start looking the same. Now, in a egotistical world, yeah, it'll be great. Everybody looks the same as what I've created here. But that's not what I want. That's not the important part here. I want people to be able to take their business and make it an extension of them, an extension of their uniqueness. Because by doing that, now everybody who's in business, every financial planner who's sort of embraced this methodology, has a uniqueness about them that resonates with people. And so you never end up having competition when it comes to that. Sure, the core services are sort of the same, but how you deliver those services is going to be different. So learn the core foundation first. Learn that core process that allows you to, run on a certain, get on the track and start running. Learn that foundation so that you can participate in this business. And then once you've done that, now you've mapped out your process. So what does that mean? Well, that simply means that you now have the ability to tweak your process and to make it your own. You can look at it and say, you know what, the way the wording of what I'm saying in the first meeting, it works, but I would prefer to use these words. Well, guess what? Start using those words, and then do a bit of a split test. For the first person that comes in, do it the original foundation way. When the second person comes in, do it your way. And see which one feels better. See how the prospective client responds to those comments and the phraseology that you use. Sometimes people say that I get too detailed in sort of the split testing and the measuring and all this sort of stuff. But you know what? If it's not measurable, you never know whether you're making an improvement or not. And so you need to be able to measure your business. I'm talking from a business owner standpoint. Again, I'm not talking about creating a process that you can scam somebody, because if that's what you're in this business for, you're going to run out of this business really quickly. But I am saying that you have so much value in what it is that you do as a financial planner, and it is so difficult to express that value and to parlay that value so that a client truly understands it. You need a process in order to deliver that value. So let's talk about the foundation then. Have you set up your foundation? Have you set up the foundation that you can start to measure and monitor? Has that happened yet? Because if it hasn't happened, you're basically you're running blind. So, do you have your WordPress website set up? And I harp on this. I say WordPress is truly the only site platform you want to be using. I know there's other sites, and honestly, I've used a couple of them. I haven't used very many of them, but all I know is that WordPress is simple, it's supported, it's easy to use. It seems to be, in the world of website development, if you're going to be developing a plugin or some sort of a premium theme or something, that you're going to do it on a WordPress platform. Sure, there's other things, but I'm talking for our business. I'm talking for the way that I've just found that this simply works the best. And so the great thing is, as I said before, if you don't know much about WordPress, it's free. Some of the biggest companies in the world are using WordPress platforms. It's a very stable platform. It's just supported by so many things. There's so many bolt-on solutions that integrate with it. It's just fantastic. So if you haven't set your WordPress website up yet, go into the toolbox and just take a look at all the links there, because all the links are there for how to set up up your for what I use and whatnot, and just start going through it and set up the WordPress website. Your hosting, is your website hosted on the recommended web host that we recommend? Bluehost is the one that we've created an affiliate relationship with, because that company is simply the one that has been there for us. I mean, when I go to them and it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and I call them, and we've got 24/7 support. And I remember the first time when I first started this, I honestly didn't know what the hell I was doing. I couldn't figure it. I was so scared of websites. I was so just freaked out by it, because and to this day, I honestly still don't quite know, unless somebody's created a GUI interface that allows me to sort of just click on what I want to do. I don't quite understand how it all works. I don't quite understand how it all works. But the point is that Bluehost, I called them and I said, listen, I know I need to set up a WordPress website. Honestly, I just don't know how to do it. And the guy said, hey, listen, no problem. Let me just do it for you. So we went on to an online session, and he just sort of walked me through the steps and said, okay, you want to do this, you want to do that. And literally in 5 minutes, it was up and it was running and it worked. And it was easy. So Bluehost, I bow down to what we get there. And sure, I'm sure there's some other hosts that can do equally as well. I started with Bluehost, was recommended to them from some other people that are sort of in the industry of the internet world and websites and whatnot. And as soon as I started realizing that everybody who was really serious about this business sort of hosted on a Bluehost server, and they had WordPress, it just seemed to work well. And it's so inexpensive. I mean, my gosh, I think it's, I don't know what it is right now, but it's probably less than $100 a year for the hosting on Bluehost. Do you have your lead nurturing set up? Okay, so once you've set up your WordPress website, once you've got your site on your host, and you've got this sort of basic website, which is really just sort of, it's just a basic website. Then you've got your premium theme, and it's, these are what a theme is basically, is just the look and feel of your website. Again, I recommend you just go to Woo Themes for WordPress, and you can just, surf around there and take a look at all of their different themes and just find one that looks good. What I've found is that it's less important about making sure that, your mom is impressed by your website, or your girlfriend or your spouse or whatever is impressed by your website. It's more important to get good content out there than it is to have that. So, but the thing is, you do need to make it look professional. You do need to make it look somewhat good. Well, professional and good, really what that means is clean. Is it just organized? Is it congruent? Well, then that's why the Woo Themes is great. And there's a lot of other companies, again, that use themes, but the themes, like what I've used for my websites, for the fee-based one, I've used Woo Themes at the beginning. I think I'm using one called Profits Theme right now, is a company, because it just had a little bit more, I don't know, it was just different, and I liked it, so I decided to use it. It's not a big decision, but just go into it. I think the one that I started with on our website for our financial planning firm was a one called Fresh Themes. That's right. I think it was called Fresh Themes. So if you go into Woo Themes and look under their Fresh Themes template or theme, then that's sort of a great one. I think it's got a good layout, and it's just nice and easy to use, and it just allows you to have a nice looking website. And then all you do, if you want, you don't even have to have a logo for that matter. You can just sort of type in the name of your company, and all of a sudden, boom, it looks pretty good. Or if you do have a logo, then there's just a spot. You just upload your logo, and it's all set. And all of a sudden, hey, wow, your website looks fantastic. But then you've got to have a nurturing campaign, because remember, you've got to be able to, once you've attracted people to your content, you've then got to be able to create a relationship with them. And how do you do that? Well, you basically offer them content. But when you offer them content, you're offering it to them in exchange for their email address and their name. And so you need a system to set that up. So again, I use Aweber. If you just go to go to the links again, there's a link there for Aweber. It takes you right into it. That's another affiliate link that we have. When I say affiliate link, all that means is that I've tested it. I've put my stamp of approval behind it. I know it works for me. The link that you're going through is simply, it's going to be the same price that everybody else pays. However, by going through our link, that just means that they're going to be sending us a little token of thanks, and it could be a small percentage of what you set up, or $50 or something like that. So it basically just That's just me. So when you know it's an affiliate link for me, when I put it there, it's because I've tested it, I've used it, and it's what I'm currently using. So I'm always going to keep that page up to date, and so you always know that it's that's what I'm using. So with the autoresponder, this is what Aweber is all about. So Aweber is where you know the little form that you set up when you go on a website, and it says, okay, put your name and address here, and you can then put a little graphic saying, do you want this piece of content, whether it be a guide or report or whatever. This is what Aweber will do. It allows you to create that form and put it on your website. And they've got a great little designer tool that allows you to create it all. So it allows you to put it on your website. And then when they go on and they click submit and they say, okay, I want that information, it handles the rest for you. It's all automated. So now it captures the lead information. It sends out the content that they've asked for. It follows up with an instant opt-in email. And I've talked about this in the past, what opt-in. So we use it, Aweber uses what's called a double opt-in. And that simply says that when you submit the information, I like the double opt-in because it allows us to make sure that the email address that the person has provided us with is real. Because if it's not real, they're not going to get the content. And so what it does is it says, listen, you've submitted the information. Thank you very much for the submission. We just need to make sure you are who you say you are. So go to your inbox. There's an email waiting for you there. Click on the link and it'll take you right to the content that you've requested. What that means is that now people have to prove that it is a true email address. And so that eliminates a lot of tire kickers that come along and say, listen, I want to get that information, but I'm going to put in a crap email address so that you can't communicate with me. Well, you know what? If you don't want me to communicate with you, then then buzz off. You don't deserve the information. If you wanted to unsubscribe afterwards, that's fine. But I'm not about sort of spamming you, and you make some comments in there that, listen, you're not going to get spam from us. You're only going to get quality content. But then what it does is it allows you to set up an automation process that just simply goes into, and we're spending a lot of time on this in our business now, in setting up these automation tracks that people can go on. Because what you're doing is when you start developing content, you want to start developing content that you can offer your target market. Okay, and again, we're still talking about sort of setting up your foundation. If you haven't done all this, that's why I'm spending the time to encourage you to do all this. So you're putting together content for your target market. And so when your target market, if it's retirees or business owners or some special niche, well, you want to speak to them in their language. And so create content based on their frustrations that you can then answer in the pieces of content. Then in exchange for that content, they'll give you the email address. Then you want to get into what I call, and I can't remember, was it Robert Collier? I think it was Robert Collier, that said that you want to get into the conversation already going on in the prospect's mind. So what's the next question that prospect's going to have once they've read your content? Well, guess what? That's what you're going to want to start talking about in your next series of emails. So you have this automation process that just kind of walks them down the path. Then what we're setting up is, and what we encourage you to set up is, okay, well, if they go in, call it the top of the funnel, where they come in and they land in with the top piece of content. Well, if their next question is relating to something a little more specific, write that piece of content and then offer it to them in those emails. Then in those emails, they can click on it, go and register for it. And by registering for it, now your system will remove them from the original list and put them onto a new list, which has a new autoresponder series, which then starts narrowing it down a little bit more. So you're really just having that conversation and you're sort of moving them down that process. That's what Aweber will do for you. So, developing content that you can offer your target market so that you can begin to nurture that lead along for the next 12 to 18 months. Hear what I just said? It's 12 to 18 months. So that when they make a decision to move forward with a financial planner, they'll call you because you're the one that's communicating with them. Now, why do I say 12 to 18 months? Well, it's very simple. Most people will not make a decision immediately on what they've inquired about, but they will make a decision within 12 to 18 months. And 85% of the people who will buy what it is they're inquiring about will do so within 18 months. Only 15% will do so within the first 30 days. So if you're not communicating with them on an automated, in an easy fashion over that time period, you're going to miss on those 85%. Well, the reason why this is so important is that most people don't communicate with them beyond the initial, are you initially interested? No? Okay, I'm moving on to somebody else. You've got to nurture it along. But the reason why they don't is because they don't have a process that they can follow that will allow them to do it easily. This is the process that allows that to happen. If you don't have this foundation set up, why don't you? What is it that's stopping you from doing that? And you know what? If there's something stopping you, send me an email. I want to know what it is that's stopping you from setting it up. Is it compliance? I mean, that's a real valid reason for not setting it up, because compliance won't let you. Well, if that's the case, you want to ask compliance, well, what is it about what we're setting up that you're wanting to put a stop to? Because here's the content that I'm putting out there. It has nothing to do with furthering a trade. It has everything to do with educating a client on topics relating to financial planning. How is that going? How is that wrong? How is that going against what compliance is? Because now what I'm trying to do is get a more educated client. And isn't that what you want as a compliance officer? You want you want to just have those conversations. We're at a real turning point in this industry. The media has caught on to the fact that our industry has been built backwards. If you go into the LinkedIn group that we've set up, there's a stream of communication talking about, I believe it was the one talking about, I think it was dropping your license, being a fee-based financial planner and dropping your investment license. Well, in that stream, you'll see a comment from me where I put a link to an article that was recently in the Canadian Globe and Mail on the Report on Business, and it was called the 0% Solution or something like that. Anyways, take a look at it, because I know in Canada this is a real reality. Yeah, it's a reality that total transparency is coming down. 31103, National Instrument 31103 is basically has said it's going to happen in 2015. It's going to be a requirement. I know in a lot of other countries, a lot of other listeners that are listening to this show right now have already gone through this. They're already experiencing it. I know you people you guys in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, this is a reality. You're living this. In Ireland, you're living this right now. And it has been very challenging for a lot of those people because they haven't set things up properly. Again, the process is all about transparency. So we are at a real turning point. And on the surface, the media, and how they're handling this, they can be seen as a financial advisor's worst enemy. In honest to goodness, I actually think the reverse is true. I think that the media is doing a wonderful service to us as fee-based financial planners. By migrating your business to a fee-based financial planning model, you're setting yourself up for the massive change that is building out at sea. Okay, this is happening. The media is screaming for transparency. This is the bandwagon they've jumped on, and you know what? It's a good one. Well, we've got that covered. 100% of our financial planning and investment oversight and implementation revenue is stated very clearly to a client. So this is all being, completely transparent. The media is screaming for results. We've got that covered as well. We focus on increasing the probability of success, not the rate of return. There's a difference when it comes to financial planning. If you can put solutions together that are simply increasing the probability of success, as opposed to what most financial people are doing is saying, listen, I can get you a better rate of return. Live by return, die by return. Focusing on probability of success, that's what people are looking for. It's through the process. So bring it on. I love the fact that this is becoming a big topic in the industry, because it just simply means that it's playing right into our business model. It's sort of, this is the leading edge. And I think if you can embrace this methodology, you're going to be on the forefront when this hits. The more the media reveals what is wrong with the current financial industry, the more they push clients to look for exactly what it is that a fee-based financial planning firm offers. So take that for what it's worth. So what are you going to do today? Well, it's currently the beginning of quarter two. At the time we're recording this, it's right at the beginning of Q2 in 2013. Do you know what you need to do to migrate your business over to a fee-based platform by the end of the year? I think that reality, you can do it in 2 quarters. You can migrate completely over to a fee-based financial planning practice at the end of 2 quarters. I'll give you 3. So let's say by the end of the year. Do you know what your financial planning process is worth? How do you know? Can you explain this to people? The power lies in your process. Remember that. Your process is your lifeline that you can always fall back on. Your process is what you need to start talking about to your clients, to your existing clients, and all future clients. Create a new division of your company and promote this to your existing clients. Take them through your process. Don't be shy about it. Take them through it. Say, listen, this is something that is now available to you. Many of them will ask you to be part of the process, because once they've gone through it, they're going to say, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's really very easy to migrate clients to this process when they have a chance to review it without the pressure of it being forced upon them. Don't tell your existing clients that they have to migrate over to your new process. Reveal what is available through your new financial planning division, and you'll be amazed at how many will ask you to be a part of it. You should be able to show them very clearly that they will be getting more value from your comprehensive approach. And if you can't, then you've got to look at your systems and saying, well, if I can't migrate my clients over to a fee-based process, if the fee-based process that I'm putting together isn't better than my current process, okay, well, there's something wrong there, because no matter how I've sliced it in the past, no matter what I do, every time I evaluate our entire fee-based financial planning process, clients just simply get more, and it costs them a lot less. So you do want to, if you can't make that work for you, make that equation work, then you've got something you've got to work out there. And if you're having any issues with that, just send me an email, and we'll see if we can't work through a little bit of that, and I'll discuss that on some future episodes. Then you want to make sure you're charging appropriately. When people pay, they pay attention. Okay, this is a quote that Joe Polish, I think, said this. He said, "When people pay, they pay attention." And if he didn't say it, then whoever he heard it from said it. The more you charge, the more people will pay attention. Morton's Steakhouse charges a lot of money for a piece of meat on your plate. But believe me, when you go there, you pay attention to the details. Let me ask you this. When you order a Big Mac, do you really pay attention and take a look at how the meat was cooked and whether or not it was massaged by hand or aged? No, you consume it because it's not worth that much. But when you're paying $75 for a steak, when it comes to the table, guess what you do? You look at it. Maybe I'm doing this at the wrong time. Maybe I'm hungry right now. I don't know. I'm seem to be talking about food quite a bit. But the point is, when that plate comes to your table, you pay attention. So people aren't saying right now that fees are too high, although you might think they're saying that. What people are actually saying is that the fees they're currently paying are too high for the crappy service and results they're getting. Compared to a successful process, of course their fees are too high. If anybody ever says to me, "Oh, your fees are too high," I say, well, compared to what? Compared to the crappy service you're getting right now, compared to the crappy performance, compared to the horrible solutions, the horrible experience that you're having, of course they're too high if that's what you're paying for what you're getting. But compared to that, our fees are really, really extremely reasonable because of the value you're getting from what you get. So let me take you through that process. Let me justify for you why it is we're charging what we charge. And so I just take them through the process, and it simply works. Does this make sense to everybody? Does it resonate with you? Because I tell you, I'm not saying it's easy. If it were easy, everybody would have done it by now. I am saying, though, that this is a process that I've done. I've migrated my business. I've moved over. I know what works. I know, unfortunately, I know what doesn't work. It's simply something that I think you need to be aware of, because the industry is changing. The industry is making, it's just simply changing. And, I think people are kind of sort of agreeing to the fact that, okay, it is going to change. And honestly, there are going to be a lot of people leaving this business because they're not willing to do what it takes to move forward. And if that's you, that's fine. But if it's not you, if you are willing to do what it takes, guess what? There's now going to be so many people looking for good financial advice. They need it. They're not going to do it themselves. The do-it-yourself market has always been there. And you know what? People, if they're do-it-yourselfers, leave it as do-it-yourselfers. Let the discount brokerage firms take advantage of that, because honestly, you don't want the do-it-yourselfers. It's not appropriate for you to be working with a do-it-yourselfer. But people do want confidence, they want advice, they want to feel like what they're doing is the right thing, and they're willing to pay for it when you can articulate what it is that you do. So, when you ask yourself, what's it worth and how do you know? If you can't answer that to your clients and prospective clients, well, you've got to go through the process to figure that out. Process is everything. It's the cornerstone of building your business. So, if this makes sense to you, just to let you know right now, we're getting very close to be opening up the registration for the Academy. If you're interested in finding out more about that, then just go to ilovefinancialplanning.com, and that will take you and put you on a waiting list. So you'll be notified on a pre-notification list as to when the next Academy session opens up, because that's what the Academy is all about. It's all about getting people migrated over and giving them the tools and the community that they can, the support network that they can turn to lay that foundation, put it out, and make sure that it works for them. So take advantage of that if you're interested. Anyways, you'll get some information on that once the next session is ready to go, and it should be right around the corner. So once you've heard this episode, if you haven't already signed up, then just definitely go and do that. But this is a big topic for me. What's it worth? How do you know? Process. It's all about setting up your business to just help build yourself a better business. So take this episode, implement something. Okay. If you haven't got your foundation in place, I urge you, just go and do that. It's the beginning of Q2. So get out there and build yourself a better business.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed fee-based financial planning mastery academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.